Obviously, the answer is no, it is not legit. I'm kidding. Brave browser is something that's been around for some time now. And as some of the viewers in my last video pointed out, this browser isn't without its controversy. So the purpose of today's video is to, first of all, look into the controversy surrounding Brave as a browser, but also look at the features and what Brave offers. And hopefully by the end of it, you'll at least know enough to make maybe an informed decision around which web browser you'd rather use on a daily basis. Now, at the end of the day, if you are expecting some earth-shattering controversy around this stuff, then I'm sorry, it's probably not going to be that interesting. However, if you're looking to pull on a few threads and just see where it all lands, then by all means, come along for the ride. So, all of this began with a browser that was based on Chromium. Now, the Brave browser, it's worth pointing out, was founded by a guy named Brendan Eich, creator of JavaScript. So it's a bit of a big deal in the world of the web. And funnily enough, he also co-founded Mozilla, which is of course the company and nonprofit behind Firefox. So this guy has been around web browsers for some time. He went on to then found Brave. And Brave was designed to be a browser that emphasized privacy and limited a lot of the annoying stuff about the web. We've all seen the feature wrap of what Brave can do, and we'll have a look at those features in a little more detail soon. But the controversy around him can be pretty well summarized by this post by a guy named Corvin Davenport. Now, you might have to have a look into the validity of some of these claims, because in the article, Corbin claims that basically Brave as a browser is guilty by association, first of all, to its founder, Brendan Eich. Now, he puts forward that because of the fact Brendan Eich donated to a certain political organization that was lobbying against same-sex marriage in California, that therefore he is hateful, and therefore the browser is hateful and not to be used either. As time went on, there was different ways that ads were going to be dealt with in the browser. So the whole idea was that instead of having a bunch of ads showing up all over the internet, you would instead get served up with ads that would reimburse you with some form of cryptocurrency. Now, that's where things started to get a little bit shady for some people. The cryptocurrency itself, because of the fact that it is, just like every other cryptocurrency, subject to the whims and the coming and going of that type of market, it was never seen as a viable alternative, and it was never seen to be reimbursing users on the same financial basis that ads were. So if you're going to block ads and then return it to cryptocurrency that's not worth as much, well, that doesn't seem like a fair trade. But more controversy was picked up when it was discovered that in 2020, Brave got caught up doing the affiliate code swapping, kind of similar to the whole Honey situation. Now, it wasn't anywhere near that scale, and they weren't doing it knowingly, or at least allegedly it wasn't knowingly. It was considered to be a mistake, and it was patched very, very quickly. I think it was only a matter of a few days before that situation got sorted out. However, reputational damage is a real thing. Now, you can go and read about some of these controversies in more detail over on this post if you look up Stop Using Brave Browser, and there are some legitimate concerns there for some users. However, at the same time, many of the people that still use Brave swear by it. And people often criticize the almost religious fervor with which people will defend the Brave browser compared to other browsers out there. Now, all that being said, controversy aside, the Brave browser still does very, very well on objective metric testing. Now, I'm not out here defending whether you should use Brave or not. I made a recommendation for the browser based on these objective metrics, such as Browser Benchmark Speedometer 3. It scores consistently fairly well in this benchmark as a standardized speed test of the performance of the browser. Now, the guys over at Browse Rating, who do basically standardized testing for browser performance using Speedometer 3, it's interesting that consistently Brave is up there as far as performance, but depending on what platform you hop onto, the rankings always shuffle around a little bit. What is interesting to me is that Brave on Windows doesn't perform as well as default Google Chrome and even Vivaldi. Brave still doesn't seem to be outperforming Safari, and Google Chrome and Vivaldi on Mac as well. Now, in theory, these are all standardized against the same hardware, but my experience has been, as a Firefox user predominantly, that Firefox in the same browser benchmarks performs worse than Brave, which performs slightly worse than Vivaldi. The ACID 3 test when it comes to web standards is not as fantastic as it could be. And it's also pointing out that when it comes to the privacy testing that the guys over at privacytests.org perform, Brave, by default settings, actually scores the strongest on a long list of parameters and characteristics. Now that brings me to another criticism of Brave, and that is that because of the fact it focuses so hard on privacy, you can end up having a bit of a clunky or failed web experience, in that not all of the web is purported to function in the way that it should on Brave compared to other browsers. And that becomes a bit of a two-edged sword, because on the one hand, if you want a browser that's going to respect your privacy and not track anything and block a bunch of stuff by the use of the Brave shields, then great, fantastic. But also at the same time, if websites are requiring those things in order to load properly, remember settings, etc., then don't be surprised when the web breaks. So it's about finding a balance between the two. So what do all these privacy respecting features and the features of Brave in general actually entail? The most obvious thing are the shields. So no matter where you visit, you can enable the Brave shields to block most of the content that is annoying. So if we were to go to, let's say, the BBC, and you can see here it is reloading the page as quickly as possible, and it's let us know that it has blocked 13 trackers and climbing. That's thing number one, which doesn't seem too controversial. Lots of other web browsers will do this kind of a thing. Now, the second component is this whole cryptocurrency side of things. So if you want to start using the rewards that come with the Brave ecosystem, basically what you're signing up for is that your attention is traded in for a certain token. So instead of watching ads from major ad networks, you will now see ads served up by Brave. And as a result, your attention to that web page with those Brave ads will then get knocked on to the creator of the website, provided that they have signed up for Brave rewards as well. In theory, it's a good model, except for the fact that the cryptocurrency, the basic attention tokens, have to be exchanged into another cryptocurrency in order to then cash out as cash. Now, many people have aversions against the whole cryptocurrency thing to begin with, and I understand that. Then there's also the fact that now they're trying to add AI, just like everybody else is. And then there is some questions around the privacy of the AI itself. Another feature and possible criticism of Brave is its use of its own web search engine. And the idea of the Brave search engine is so that you can search the web and it will bring up results without having to track your usage and without providing ad revenue to big tech companies like Google. As far as some other features that have copped a bit of flack over the past is the Brave firewall and VPN. It seems like every web browser and their dog is trying to add a VPN service built into their web browser, but allegedly the one that comes with Brave not only auto-installed a lot of background processes on Windows devices, but it also was a bit flaky in terms of performance and just functionality. So a lot of people were criticizing the VPN service, especially when it first rolled out, because of the fact it would force auto-install background services on the user's device at the administrator level, allegedly without their permission. Now, things have changed slightly since then. I can't comment on how this looked in the Linux world because of the fact that Linux packaging is different to how it runs on Windows. So between features like their built-in Tor window for really anonymous browsing, playlist adding for adding video and audio into a list that you can listen to later, to news and video chats, there's a lot of features going on here. And I think there is an overwhelming question that comes with all of this, and that is, how does this browser generate revenue? And while the code is all very publicly available and open source, there is some general aversion to the Web3 type stuff that seems to be finding its way into this browser. At the end of the day, it's still a browser that I'm happy to recommend to people who want a more privacy-respecting web browser. As far as all of the crypto features and the VPN and bits and pieces like that, those things are entirely opt-in. They are not opt-out, and they're not forced on you per se as a browser. Now, I personally don't use Brave. I just never gotten on board with, I don't know, the design of it or something. As much as I like the feature set that's present in Brave, I've always been somebody that seems to have floated between Firefox and Vivaldi for my own personal web browsing, and I use Microsoft Edge at work because that is the ecosystem that we're in. I think it's going to continue to be a struggle for web browsers to monetize themselves as a platform when so much of the web is already heavily monetized. Firefox has struggled to do this for many years, and Brave is definitely trying in a few different directions, and not all of them are landing with their user base. So it's an interesting corner to get backed into between stringing the line between privacy and monetization as a tool that allows people to access the web. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.